if we take a look at what happened today, which is the 17th day of Tammuz, so it's obviously the beginning of the 3 weeks, the beginning of the time when we commemorate the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. And to us as Jews, it's it's a sad time, it's a tragic time. It's the beginning of all the tzaras that began historically. And so we can look at the day as a historic day. And it's very important to know your history, and very important to recognize that which transpired, that which occurred, and to fast on this day. Yeah, not having a coffee today is really hard, and you actually feel it. It's like a show and tell. You get to actually experience that which transpired. But actually, what happened on this day, we just read slichas now, a very long slichas, which added a lot to davening. And so in the slichas we said that what really happened on Shivas B'Tammuz was the day that they breached the walls of Yerushalayim. So they broke into Yerushalayim on this day. And a bunch of things transpired on that day. But the core is that Tisha B'Av happened in stages. The Tisha B'Av was the day when the Beis HaMikdash was actually destroyed. But Shivas B'Tammuz, they got into Yerushalayim. Asar B'Tevez, they besieged the city. What happened on Shivas B'Tammuz was the Korbanos were stopped. There were no more Korbanot, no more sacrifices offered in the Beis HaMikdash. That's the real tragedy. So we said it a bunch of times in the Slichas that what happens on this day is Nitbatlu Korbanot. Now, the problem with us Jews nowadays is that we kind of like, if you want to get real, we don't know what to do with the would-be Korbanos. We actually prefer not having Korbanos because we don't get what it means to take animals and offer them as sacrifices on the altar and on the Mizbeach. It looks like a ritual which we don't begin to understand. And that's where the Korban is. The Korban is not just a historic thing that there was a Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim that was taken away from us, but much more than that, it's that we don't even get what the Beis HaMikdash was. It's not that we can't build a Beis HaMikdash today for many reasons. One of them is because we don't get what it means to have a Beis HaMikdash. Because the work in the Beis HaMikdash was to offer Korbanos. And what happened on this day was they stopped the ability to offer Korbanos, but they didn't just stop it practically. They blocked us from understanding what Korbanos are in the first place. We don't relate. Now, after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, we needed something to keep Judaism connected. So what's going to be the new form, the new mode of Judaism? Remember, in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, things were actually, Judaism was very much centralized. You came to the Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year on the 3 regalim. You came in there and you offered the Korbanos, and every time something went wrong, you offered the Korbanos, and every single day you offered the Korbanos. Shachris, Mincha, and then Ma'ariv also is the finishing up of the work. So the rabbis got together and realized that we need to protect Judaism. We need to do something which is going to keep Judaism alive. And so they replaced Korbanos with something else, which is Tefillah. Unashalma parim svaseinu means we don't have any bulls, so we use our lips instead to pay back what the bulls were able to accomplish. So we do Tefillah. Now, Tefillah is actually the exact same thing as a korban, which means Judaism consisted of, in the morning you offer a korban, first thing in the day. All Jews offer a korban tamid. And then afterwards in the afternoon you offer another korban. That's the korban tamid of the afternoon. And then in the evening there's the finishing up of the job, and the mizbeach, everything being burnt up. So they said, you know what, we don't have that, let's do 3 things instead. Shachris and Mincha for the korbanot tamid, and Ma'ariv for the work that was finished on the Mizbeach. And so what we do today is, Judaism is built around, it's built around Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv. And it's built around special tefillahs of the year. There's the tefillah of Shabbos, and there's Shalosh Regalim, which have a different kind of tefillah, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Those are the tefillahs of the year. And to us Jews, tefillah is what makes us into, what binds us. If you open up a community You have a bunch of Jews move together into one new area, and they now find themselves a whole bunch together. What do they do in that place? What they create is a space where they can have a minyan of davening together. And then they try to learn there also. But the learning is secondary. Actually, the davening is the main part of it. That's your Beis HaMikdash in action. But when you look at and you correlate the two together, what is the connection between tefillah and Korbanos? We could have said we needed something, right? So maybe we should do 100 jumping jacks in the morning and in the afternoon, and that will be instead of Korbanos. What's tefillah got to do with Korbanos? What is the connection between one and the other? What we want to do now is take a bit of a deep dive into the connection between davening and Korbanos. Because B'Hashgacha Pratis, it's this week's parsha. The parsha, what it says is, so Hashem says to Moshe, tell Bnei Yisrael, command them, and tell them that there's a korban, there's a sacrifice in the morning, and another one in the afternoon. And that's how you get a fire lit up. If you want to know what it means to daven, davening is Korbanos. So once you understand what the Korbanos are, these so-called sacrifices, although that's not a correct term to use, once we get what the sacrifices are, then we get how you daven. Once we get how you daven, we get not how you build a community, while that's true, but more how you build yourself. All your issues are solved by davening. Just like in the Beis HaMikdash, it was a central place to take yourself to and bring yourself to a position, and in that place, you're able to connect, to build a bond between you and Hashem. It's a sacred place, Beit HaMikdash. So too, we get to do this all the time in this world. Even when we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, we get to do the same thing. So what we need to do is take a look at, like in a certain sense, there's an existential problem which we have living in this world. And what's that problem? Well, the problem is, let's take a look first of all, what is the difference between our world which we inhabit and Olam Haba? Because Korbanot can only be offered in this world, and only in this world when you have a Beis HaMikdash. You don't have a Beis HaMikdash, you got to do davening. Davening is replacing the korban. What's special about our world and what happens in this world? So, to borrow an analogy, imagine, I once saw this. I went into a fertility lab. It was actually fascinating because we were watching. They have, there's IVF today. IVF means you can take a baby and you can put him in a little dish, small little lab, little something over there, and you take there was a lady there, an embryologist, and she was basically playing with a joystick. And she's moving around the joystick, and there's little things inside there, and she's moving the joystick around in order to pluck a little chromosome. And she can't see that because she's looking at a thing she's seeing on the screen. So she's looking down in the microscope, and the doctor's looking at the screen. We were all standing watching the doctor. And as we're seeing, the doctor's taking, it looked like, those olden televisions with the black and white dots there? Like, when the thing went off? Like that? Looked something like that. But not quite black and white, it was actual shapes all over. And the doctor looks, and he's like, okay, pluck that one, take that one. And he says, okay, there, beautiful. Look what a beautiful, stunning baby. And I'm looking at the screen. That didn't look like a stunning baby at all. It looked like a bunch of black dots and white dots and like little lines and shapes. And he's showing us, see that baby? That one, they have, right, you can actually do IVF ICSI. You can choose the gender of your baby. How do you choose the gender of your baby? You don't. You take the chromosome that's already there, that's male or female, and you put that one in, and then you choose the choice of the baby. But what you get to do is that one's Down syndrome. And so I'd rather not use that one, I'd rather use this one. And he shows us why, because the shape of the chromosome is not the way you want it to do. And so there he goes and he creates a different kind of a baby. In the Talmudic terms, it's called that in the first 40 days of pregnancy, you can daven that it should be a boy or girl. So, whatever that means. But in a certain sense, here's the point. If a baby is born with Down syndrome, what does it take to get that baby to become normal and to be able to be functioning? It takes a ton of patience and probably a really, really, really good mother who's actually willing to work and to toil and to be there for this baby. And the chances are that even if she does it, it won't be 100% successful. It'll be high functioning, but it won't be the same as normal. But what happens when you're in vitro and you're in that doctor's lab and you just tell the embryologist, take that one, not that one? What does that take? Nothing. You just save them a lifetime of challenges just by saying, choose that one and don't that one. Because in vitro, things can be changed much easier. Transitions and transformations are so much simpler when you're in vitro. But when you are already born, once you're born, that's a whole different challenge. Then to be able to bring about a baby is a whole different world. So the analogy goes like this. We here, we're in vitro. Olam Haba is when the baby's already been born. That's the next world. That's a problem. I mean, it's good because you have a baby. But it's not good because the baby that's born is stuck. Whatever you're born as, that's what you are. You can't change your gender, you can't change your color, you can't change what chromosomes you have. You're not able to change who you are. I mean, you could. There's just going to be a lot of work. A ton of work. In vitro, little joystick, move this way, move that way. All changes can be made very, very easily. In fact, there's a special, it's called a punishment, but I don't know if the word punishment is correct, but there's punishments, right? When you get to the next world, one of the punishments, the harsh punishments, is called kaf hakela. Kaf hakela means literally a slingshot. When David killed Goliath, David and Goliath, David killed Goliath, he used a slingshot that says a kaf hakela. You take a little, and he shot a little stone and he hit it exactly, plucked it in the right spot. Kaf hakela is a punishment that's met out on a neshama, on a soul in the next world. Here's what the punishment is. The punishment is that they play ping pong with the neshama. So two angels stand on two other opposite ends of the world, and they throw the neshama, they throw the soul from one end to the other end, and the neshama falls apart, and then they put it back together and throw it again. And it's supposed to be very painful for the neshama. It is horrible. Yes. So what does it mean? Here's the story. You can't play ping pong with a spiritual soul. You can play ping pong with something physical. You can't play ping pong with a neshama. It's not physical. So what it means is, we understand it very literally and very physically. That's not what it means. It means you are in one place and you get thrust into the opposite location. When you come into Gan Eden, you get to see and to experience what it means to be attached to Hashem. You get to see how glorious it is. You get to see what it means that if you learned a particular Gemara, if you learned Gemara Kiddushin, so now you're standing in the chamber of Gemara Kiddushin, what it means is, and what the spiritual ecstasy that emanates from it. In this world, you don't see it. In the next world, you get to experience what each piece of Torah did. You did that mitzvah, you gave tzedakah, and you get to experience what it means to give tzedakah. So the joy is unparalleled. The caviar is that you can't do anything. You're stuck. That's called being thrust from one side to the other. You get to see what it is. You see it. It's right in front of you, and you're not there. Why are you not there? Because you didn't do that mitzvah, and so you can't get the experience of that mitzvah. And not because it's not reward and punishment. It's not like cut. It's just that there's an experience that you have, and you can't do that. Kind of like in this world, when you have a particular, you have a midah, an emotion, a character trait, and you don't know how to take charge of yourself, and you're stuck, and you find yourself like you're married and talking to your spouse, and you're trying to be there for them, but you're stuck. You can see that the problem can be solved easily, but I just can't do that. I'm an addict. I can't do that, so I'm not able to change myself. That's called kafakela. It's being thrust from one side to the other and back. You can see the truth, you can see what it's about, and yet you can't do it. And so the next world, the world of reward and the world of paradise, is actually a big problem. We like to think of it as a place to go. It's not. I mean, if you have to go, it's a good place to be in. But right now, you're in a much better spot, actually. And the reason is because in vitro, you can make changes so easily. In this world, all you need to do is move the joystick this way and that way, and the problem is solved. You're done. You can change a foot and make it into a head, and a head into a foot. It's very simple, actually, if you know how to do it when you play with molecules. But if you have to play with real life, you can't do it. It doesn't work. And so you're stuck. So in the next world, the world of paradise, it's the world where you get to see the results, but you can't make changes. This world is awesome because it's not. That's why it is. It's unbelievable because you don't see anything, and that's why you just move things around. It's so simple to move things around. You can be bad and good, and back to being bad, and back to being good, and it's all good. It's like you can have windows open simultaneously on the computer, and that means it's the world of change. The Mishnah says, "Yafa sha'a achat b'tshuva u'ma'asim tovim ba'olam hazeh mikol chayei olam haba." One moment of doing teshuvah and a good deed in this world is better than the whole world to come. Even though the same Mishnah continues and says, "And yafa sha'a achat shel korat ruach ba'olam haba mikol chayei olam hazeh." One moment of nachas, of enjoyment in the next world is better than the whole of this world. So which one is it? Well, the next world you get to experience it. In this world you get to do it. In the next world you get to realize how awesome this world was. So essentially that means you're in the right place right now. But what you want to do is yafa sha'a achat. The word sha'a, which we translate as an hour, actually means, that's why an hour is called an hour, because it moves from one side to the other. It's a movement. We say in davening, v'litfilatam she'ei, turn. To turn to him. One transition and transformation in this world is better than the whole world to come. So in this world, what you're able to do is transform yourself. That is the power we call teshuvah. We translate teshuvah, we think teshuvah means you did an aveira, you did something wrong, say sorry and come back and do teshuvah. That's where you borrow the term teshuvah. Teshuvah means to move yourself, to make a change and get closer to Hashem. In this world, when you get closer to Hashem, it often doesn't feel like anything. You just move from one place to another. But Teshuvah is that absolute transformation where you change and you see things in a new light. The sages say, there's a Gemara that says, Man deloi kora b'moidim. We did it the other week also. Someone who doesn't bow down in moidim, what happens to him? Nasa shidrato nachash. His spine becomes a snake. What that seems to mean is that, when he gets put in the 6 foot under, so somehow a snake comes from the spine. And it's some kind of punishment for the next world. It's not, it's for this world. And it's not a punishment, it's a reality. The reality is, if you can't bow down, and in moidim means acknowledge. If you're not able to acknowledge God in your life, then your life becomes a snake. Everything becomes bad. That's called negative thinking. Everything in your life is just bad. A person who submits themselves and bows down means that I see Hashem, I notice Hashem in everything. I notice the power of God around in whatever happens, and I'm able to find Hashem in everything that happens. So a very simple step is a thank you Hashem. But that's a very easy step. The real step is I acknowledge Hashem. I notice Hashem in everything. If you don't bow down, you can't acknowledge, your life becomes a snake. It becomes bad. Everything becomes terrible. You become negative and you start thinking that things are actually negative. What you want to be able to do is to submit yourself and bow down in Moedim. In Shema, at the end of the Shema, what do we say? We say, V'loi sasuru acharei levavchem acharei einechem asher atem zoinim achareim. What does that mean? It means don't be promiscuous. So you're like, okay, I'm a good person, I'm not promiscuous. I keep monogamy, and I'm faithful, I'm good. So that one doesn't apply to me. It very much applies to you. Who are you married to? Marriage, the supernal marriage, is between us and Hashem. The Jews married to God. How do you get married to Hashem? He's the Ish, we are the Isha. Ish is a fire with a Yud. Ish with a Yud in the middle. Isha is a fire with a Hey. When you align your fire with Hashem, and His fire and your fire blend, then you're married. That's why people, when they date and they go out, if it works, you develop romance. What's romance? Hopefully, it's a fire. If it developed correctly, it's the fire that binds the Ish and the Isha. What's called promiscuity? It's when your fire stems from some other location. So ask yourself the question, what's my fire stemming from? What's a fire? A fire is this thing in the heart. When you're mellow, then you're good. What's a fire? When you're hitched and excited and angry. So there's a lot of these emotions that erupt inside of us. And those emotions, what are they? They stem from external sources. There's something on the outside that's causing the inside to feel an emotion. And that's called being promiscuous. Why are you being promiscuous? Because you're not married to Hashem. Because if you said the Shema correctly, and the beginning of the Shema says, close your eyes, and you erase everything else, and you say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad is only Hashem. And my power comes from Hashem. Now I got to work on this to realize my power comes from Hashem. That's hard work. I was talking once to a mother who's she's not married to her husband anymore, and have a bunch of kids. And you know, raising kids is not easy at all. Raising single parent kids is 100 times more difficult. And the reason is very simple. Because kids very quickly come to realize that if you don't have a united front for them, any kids in any marriage, if you don't have a unified front, what happens? The kid can play you opposite each other and get whatever they want in the moment. So when parents are not married to each other and they're divorced, there's going to be differences in opinions. And so what happens if a teenager has an argument with a mother? What do you think a teenager does? Says, I'm out of here. Bye. I'm going to daddy. So this particular teenager went to daddy. And the mother's calling me out because she's fuming. Because now the younger siblings are going to learn that whenever you're angry, you just run away and go to daddy. And so she pulls out the contract, which they signed by the judge, and they paid $150,000 for. And she's like, here it says very clearly that he's not allowed to do this. So I have no choice. I'm going to exercise my rights. Now I'm listening to her in the conversation, and I'm wondering, so what are you calling me for? And I think she's calling me A, because she wants someone to tell this to, like to, throw it on her anger, because who you meant to throw it at. And that's the benefit of marriage, by the way. You can have someone to throw it at. And she wants I think like she wants validation for her rights to go. She doesn't want to go to court. She's never gone to court before, and she has to go. She has no choice. It's a complicated situation, and she must go. No choice. So I'm listening to her, and on every count she was right. There's only one little point. I said to her, I don't understand. So you're going to go to court, and the judge is going to order that your teenager needs to come back to you. Did you ever try order a teenager to do anything? The judge is going to say, unless the judge is going to send the police and they're going to handcuff your child, the child will say to the judge, I don't care. I'm not listening. So what exactly are you gaining? I'll tell you what you'll gain. You'll gain animosity from your child. I can't forget sitting down. I told her this. I can't forget sitting down. Grandparents came to my house, and they were crying because they were very, very, very distraught because they wanted a relationship with their grandchildren, and the grandchildren refused to talk to the grandparents. It was absolute alienation from the grandchildren to the grandparents. Why? Because years before, when they were young, their father wasn't paying child support. And so what did they do? They wanted to pay child support, so they helped their daughter. So they had no choice, and they went in front of the judge. And the judge, what do judges do? You don't pay? He locked them up. And so he was locked up in prison. And then afterwards, I don't think he paid them afterwards either. Not like it really helped. But here's what it did. What it did was, these little children noticed their father. I don't know what he told them, what he didn't tell them, but they were living by the mother, and the mother won the war. But years later, the children were so angry at her that because she was fighting for them and their support, child support, they don't want to talk to her. And to the grandparents. So all relationship was totally lost because you won the war, that's why. So I told this lady, okay, so what are you supposed to do? This ain't easy. What you want to do is notice, it's so counterintuitive because we're so trained that when there's a problem, you have to solve the problem. You have to go out and solve the problem. And the way you solve the problem is, there's a judge. Go to the judge and solve the problem by the judge. And I told her this little story. I said, you want a relationship with your kids, right? You're investing your life into them. And you want to have the relationship with them. If you want the relationship with them, I said, here's what I think you should do. First, what you want to do is nothing. What you want to do is do some internal work on yourself. Most people don't do this. Most people find this too hard, too challenging, too difficult. I can't do it. And so they decide not to do it and they move away. But if you're ready to do the hard work, there is very hard work involved over here, but it will change your life when you do it. Ever since the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed and we don't have Korbanos, the rabbis told us what you want to do is do every single day a tefillah. It's a connection to Hashem. Don't do it as a mantra, do it for real. It will change your life. At the center of your life is a prayer to Hashem. Prayer means meditation. It doesn't mean you ask Hashem to do it and then you walk away. You ask Hashem and then you do it. You actually ask and then you do the work. Don't assume He's going to do the work. What's the work? The work is not to be led astray. Leman tizkeru, so that, what's leman tizkeru? So that you should Remember, that you become males. Leman tizkiru zachar. Don't be promiscuous, meaning allow the world to create your feelings. The problem is, if your teenager went out and went away, and your teenager now caused you to feel overwhelmed, helpless, resentful, angry, whatever else, that's called the promiscuity. And you say, what am I, not normal? I'm not a human being? It's very normal. If you want to be normal and you want to be a regular person, go ahead and suffer the consequences of that act. But Hashem gave us something incredible in this world. It's called teshuvah. Teshuvah means to be able to return to Him, to be able to align ourselves with Him in this world. And when you align yourself with Him in this world, it's not a popular thing to do. But when you do it, Hashem's energy works and operates through you. And when it operates through you, you'll discover that this world, incredible changes can be made. We want to live in that space of bliss. But the better place to live in is a place we have to do the work. When a Jew in this world does the work of returning to Hashem, and that means real hard work, because it doesn't come with a manual. When it actually happens in life, things happen that are hard and challenging, and what you got to do is flip it over and move yourself back to a central zone with Hashem. So the beginning of that piece, of the promiscuity, that's called that's the end of the Shema. The beginning of the Shema is, close your eyes, Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's the center of what davening is. That's the backbone. Close your eyes and you say, it didn't happen to me, Hashem caused it. It's not that something's happening on the outside. My teenager has no power over me. Hashem is the power. And I draw my power from Hashem. How do you do that? You download it into your system by meditating and reflecting on it every single day, that Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So why is there a problem over here? Because Hashem wants to be a king. And Hashem wants me to bring Him into the space. That's called Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay Le'olam Voed. To draw down Hashem's kingdom into this problem. Baruch, draw down Shem Kvoid Malchusay, His kingdom, into the Olam, into this world. What am I going to do over here? Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. Ve'ahavta means to love. It doesn't mean to love. It means to cause, to be desired. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. What is the message of Hashem in this space? Let's break it down. Simplify it. That means, what needs to be done right now? In any given situation, if you ask yourself the question, what needs to be done, you'll discover that when you're in the middle of it, like this mother, she doesn't know the answer. Why does she not know the answer? Because between her and the answer, there's something called emotions. High emotion. You can't solve the problem when you're in high emotion. It's not happening. You're being promiscuous. You're allowing other forces, other than Hashem Echad, to dictate your life. You can't solve the problem. In simple terms, all problems can be solved when you're feeling mellow. No problem can be solved when you're feeling anxious. So what's the way to solve the problem? Stop feeling anxious. The problem is when you don't feel anxious, you'll see there's no problem. So there's nothing more to solve. It's actually wild how it works. Whole life takes place in these emotions that go crazy up and down. That's the fire. The fire of me being influenced by other sources. And what I want to do is, every morning and every afternoon, I want to sandwich my day. Sandwich the day with attachment to Hashem. In the original format, it's called offering a korban to Hashem. What's the korban? Korban means to get close. So how do you offer korban to Hashem? You take an animal, take a sheep, and you put him on the mizbeach and you offer him to Hashem. So the animal gets connected to Hashem. Now, in this world, there's 4 levels of creation. There's the inanimate vegetation, the animal, and the medaber, man. There's 4 elements: Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Afar. Fire, wind, water, and earth. Each one of those 4 corresponds to one of these. Which one is the animal? The human being is wind, right? What's the dust? Well, that's easy. That's tomem. Water is tzomeach, is vegetation that grows. Chai, fire. Animal is considered fire. Why? Because that's what animals are. They're very intent. It's fiery. What you want to do is take the passion, which is the animal, and bring him to Hashem. That's the work of making a korban. It's the passion being brought close to Hashem. That's the work. So once upon a time, it wasn't an archaic ritual of offering Korbanos. No. What was the work in the Beis HaMikdash? The work was to take all the extraneous passions and excitements and bring them to Hashem. Constantly bring them to Hashem. All the time. And in the morning and afternoon you did it. It was the thing you did. The beauty of life was that all of us lived and brought ourselves to the Beit HaMikdash. And so when we all did this, the whole world became holy. And then everything went wild. Because in Shivas B'Tammuz, they stopped, they obstructed the power of Korbanos. And that means that feelings go wild and mishuga, and they go all over the place. And that's where the problem comes about. The problem lies in emotions gone wild. Because if you analyze your life at any given time, you'll discover that the only thing that's problematic in your life is the way you feel about it. Nothing else. So what's the work? The work is to bring your animal, that's the animal. The animal is that extreme feeling, and bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. So there's two types of work. There's the work in real time as to how to do it. And then there's the work of preparing yourself for this. Because make no mistake, this is really difficult. If you don't set yourself up for success, you can't succeed. What's the work of a Jew? The work of a Jew is to be connected to Hashem. What does it mean to be connected to Hashem? Most of us have no clue. We don't know what it means. So what does it mean to be connected to Hashem? It's very simple. When you have the opposite of it, then you know what it is. What it is, you don't know. What the opposite of it is, you do know. When you have the opposite of it, it's not the opposite, it's the opportunity. In other words, if you were normal and you never had any crazy emotions, you would be boring and we don't need you. Life is made out of people who are out of whack, whose emotions go crazy. Up, down, down, up, left, right, center, all over the place. That's what life is about. Emotions gone wild. We're going to give a name to those emotions. You know what they are? They're animals. And that's very easy to understand why. They're wilde chayes, wild animals inside you. And what do we do with those animals? We tame them. We bring them close to Hashem. How do you bring them close to Hashem? It's a new frame. We don't solve problems ever. We never need to solve any problem. How do you solve problems? Hashem solves problems. Except that Hashem says, I'm only going to solve the problem if you help me solve the problem. How are you going to help me solve the problem? Get close to me. Close, korban. Korban means litkarev, to get close. How do you get close to Hashem? Here's the process. Step one. At any given point in time, take a look at yourself and say, oh, that's what we were learning about. This is it. This is the moment. And you'll notice how you feel. Just take a look at how you feel about the situation. We don't do that. What we do is we assume our feelings to be part of ourselves, and then we say, okay, what do I do? So I'm assuming, look, I'm angry. Why am I angry? Because my teenager ran away to the father. So what needs to be done is to solve the problem over there. Which means, call the father. If he's not listening, call the judge. And then hope that something happens. And what do they say? Stupidity is doing something again and again and again and expecting different results. Einstein. Try a different result. Try a different approach. When something happens, we Jews at the epicenter of living have Korbanos. What's Korbanos? We bring it close to Hashem. So we close our eyes and we say, Hashem, help me. And then Hashem says, I'm listening. Here's how I help you. I help you when you bring me into the picture. How do you bring me into the picture? By looking at yourself and going through the motions. So step one, I notice the problem. I notice the emotion that's causing the problem. I get it. There's an emotion blocking me. There's an anxiety. That anxiety, really, what is it? It's an animal asking to be brought close to Hashem. It's the way to get close to Hashem. It's awesome. So what am I going to do with it? I'm going to feel my anxiety. And then I'm going to accept that that's a problem. And I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to say, Shema Yisrael, Shalom Hashem Echad. There's only Hashem. So this anxiety was not caused by my teenager running away. What was it caused by? Hashem. What did Hashem want? To give me an anxiety that I could flip over. How do you flip over the anxiety? By recognizing that it's fine. First of all, once you feel the anxiety, you're feeling anxious? Yeah, I am. Okay, and? Watch. Once you got what you're feeling, and you identified it, and you gave yourself some empathy, it goes away. Really, it takes a while, but it goes away. Then you're like, okay, this is hard. And? I'm going to accept that whatever's happening to me is from Hashem. I'm going to think of myself in a light of Hashem. Surrounded by the light of Hashem and the glory of Hashem. And then I'm going to wait and see what happens. Because you wait a few hours, you wait till the next morning, maybe you're tired and you need to sleep. And you'll feel good about yourself. Because if you're not doing that work of noticing the feeling and then being able to see, and Hashem is right here with me. If you don't do that, you keep on running over there trying to solve the problem, right? That's the problem. Nowadays, when someone if you want to be a boy, if a girl wants to be a boy, instead of trying to figure out what she's going to do, what does she do? She goes online, finds a bunch of other people who also want to, and now they have a society of girls who want to be boys. Go solve that now. But we're no different. Everyone's like that. What we do is, I got a problem, solve it over there. No, don't join a society of in yourself. Just go inside you and do the work inside you. Feel that feeling and say, Hashem, this is anxiety and I'm going to do what I have to do anyway. Once the anxiety goes away and you're feeling joy, now decide what you're doing. It's very difficult to do crazy things when you're not feeling crazy. Now you can go do an objective solution to the problem. And that's the work of a Jew. So the way we Jews operate in our days, we start every day with Shachris. And we sandwich it, Shachris and Mincha. What's Shachris and Mincha? It's two different tefillos. You wake up in the morning, I want to work my way to feel Hashem Echad. You can't just do it. It takes Psukei de Zimra, it takes the work of thinking about Birkas Krishma. All those, that part of davening, what's it about? For me to realize everything in this world is Hashem. That simple. If you can just do it by saying Shema, Hashem Echad, go ahead and do it. Most people need the revving up of the machine. To be able to think about Hashem is in my life, Hashem is running the world, this is God, this is what Hashem, okay, great. You got to that point, that's Hashem, you got to it, and not being promiscuous, not allowing the forces from outside to work, okay, now you walk right out into the open world. You know, the Gemara says, Eizehu shoite, what's a fool? Ze ha'me'abed ma shenotnim lo. Someone who loses what he gets given, right? You give him something and he can't hold on to it. Hasidic translation is, Eizehu shote, what's a fool? Ze ha'me'abed ma shenotnim lo. What's ma? Moshe Rabbeinu says, my claim to fame is v'nachnu ma. We are what? What's the what? We are people who let go. We know we're what. We don't try solve problems. What's a fool? Someone who doesn't realize what he has. God solves problems, not us. How do you solve the problem? By bringing God into the picture and allowing yourself to live with Hashem. So you daven Shachris in the morning, you feel Hashem's presence, you feel the oneness of Hashem, and you walk out into the world, and what happens? Everything goes right out the window. That's what happens. That's why we Jews go to Shiurim and we learn Torah. We learn Torah to know how Hashem wants us to operate in the world. We're learning now, right? What we're learning. We're learning, and that allows you to operate and to know how to function in the world, so that you don't lose this power of ma that you were given. What's the ma? The recognition that when you let go and allow Hashem to run your life is a different life. And then, Mincha, to capture it. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Shachris, Mincha, Maariv. 3 points in the life of a Jew, every single day, where he allows himself to say the Shema, and to recognize Hashem, and to recapture in Mincha, basic with the Shema Esrei, and then in Maariv again, and to capture the relationship with Hashem, so in real time when things happen to you. You have a new way to relate to it. And so now let's read what the psukim say. It says, "Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Leimer." Hashem tells Moshe to offer the 2 korbanos, morning and afternoon. Let's read the words. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe Leimer. Hashem channels his words through Moshe. Who's Moshe? Moshe is that person who says, "V'nachnu ma." We are what? What's Moshe? He's someone who aligned himself, his thinking, speech, and action, everything aligned with Hashem. That's Moshe. He's connected. Hashem tells Moshe, "Tzav es b'nei Yisrael." Go. Tzav means to command. Tzav means to connect. Go connect the Jewish people. Send them this message. How are they going to do this? You'll tell them, "Ve'amart Aleihem es korbani lachmi le'ishoi." There's a korban, which is my bread. This is what I consume. This is what I eat in this world. Which means if you want to get connected to Hashem, the way to get connected to Hashem is by offering korbanos. What does it mean, korbanos? Give me the fire so that my fire and your fire are aligned. And so from now on, you know and you monitor yourself and you know what animals are and what korbanos are. And then you look at the day and you see, identify the animal, there he is. That's the feeling. That's the anxiety. You got the anxiety? Okay? Now Hashem tells your Moshe is your relationship with Hashem, right? You want to work on this anxiety. Hashem, you take away the anxiety. That's the one thing Hashem says. I don't do things, you do them. I tell you how to do it. You ask me for help, and then you bring down the help. How to bring down the help? You identify the anxiety that you feel. You recognize that it's a promiscuous fire from outside. You ask Hashem for help, and you let yourself, you just notice how you feel it there. That's the korban, feeling it, right? And then let it go. It's Hashem, I know you're taking care of me anyway. And then it doesn't happen, and then it's work, it's actual work, but watch what happens afterwards. When you offer the korban to Hashem, a fire comes down, crouched, shaped like a lion, and it would devour your korban. And suddenly you feel attached to Hashem. And Hashem says that's a reach nichoach. That's a smell that brings me down. Nichoach is to come down. Chutz daga. And what you want to do is offer this korban to Hashem. So, this lady, what I told her is saying the solution to your problem is to recognize in your own feelings all the time. When you get this work, I think you hear it and then like it goes in one ear and out the other, and then after a while you realize it's healthy living. You can't live any other way. I told her you have to work through this hard emotion. It's tough. You got to work through the emotion, not through the solving it and calling up the judge. Maybe you should call the judge. I didn't say no. There needs to be a shtadlus. Hashem wants you to do something, but the first thing for you to do is to work through these very difficult emotions. And I sat by and identified them, because to collect emotions is hard, right? What am I feeling? So you have to ask someone else sometimes, what am I feeling? You just tell me what I'm feeling. Just repeat to me, tell me what I'm feeling. Okay, I got that. Okay, great, thank you. And I got it? Okay. So once I got these feelings, now what I want to do? Now I want to offer them as a korban to Hashem. Which means I want to realize, I'm feeling this. See, now I know how to daven. Because like this, I'm davening. Hashem, could you please make my teenager normal? That's like an impossible tefillah. Right? Davening for a miracle. Teenagers do not become normal. It's not happening. What you want to do is daven that you should be aligned with Hashem. And so davening is asking Hashem for it and then allowing yourself to feel that it's there and it's present and it's happening in your life. And when you do that, and it can only be done in context of Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. It's tefillos. We don't really know how to do this today properly. When we had a Beis HaMikdash, that's when we did it. That's why Shabbat of Tammuz is so sad. Because there's so much negativity that we face and it's so hard and so difficult. And so, we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. But Chazal told us that you can still do it. As long as you get to realize what you're doing. Davening is not me asking Hashem to solve the problem and then worrying and doing all the things against it. Davening is me asking Hashem, bringing Hashem down and then working the work into myself to operate as if Hashem's already answering me and then He's with me and doing the work with me. And then you discover that when a fire comes down from above, problems get solved. So this lady, what should she do? Get to a good space. Feel good about yourself. And then you know what's going to happen? Teenagers, they love to go to good places. They do. And so, right now, the teenager feels by you animosity. So I'm out. But if a teenager starts to realize that place is really nice. My mom, wow, she's so plugged in, she's so connected. You won't need to do anything. The problem will be solved. And you'll save yourself $100,000 from a judge by doing the work. So that's the avodah of Korbanos. Hashem should help us that we should, through our avodah, right, through Nasham points, saying to bring about a revelation of the Beis HaMikdash and allow us to live back in that space where it's a holy world, because this world is the best place to be in. Little transformations can change everything in this world.